right error, the dreaded right error,
which we haven't.
Which we just got again.
It's been on for literally 1 second.
Well, I don't know. We might have to be a new card, but it's always like when I accentuate anything, like if I did Pee-wee's voice, it'll freak out.
Really?
Yeah. So, fingers crossed, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to try and get through this without any more right errors, but we're going to keep researching this. We watched Pee-wee as himself, and I kind of wanted to do this because remember when we first watched Pee-wee's Big Adventure, you were not the biggest Pee-wee fan.
I was not.
What do you remember about that when we watched that? Actually, before we watched it, was it? I'm gonna guess it's because of your distaste for things that are.
Yeah, it was really weird. I don't like it, but I gave it a chance.
You didn't like what? You didn't like the unusual?
Yeah. It takes me a minute too to get used to, like his look. Not that his look is like super weird or anything like that, but just like the whole.
Like it's so symmetrical.
I like it a lot.
Uh-huh.
It really works for me. Whereas normally, weird would be like some eccentric outfit that someone wears. His is like very like like calm and tame. So there's nothing like quote wrong with that, but. His behavior and the set, like the scenery all around, really throws me.
Like you didn't like the Playhouse? I find this so interesting for you because like you teach little kids, and like Pee-wee's Playhouse was like it was
a kid show.
Yeah, it was built for kids.
That was interesting to me. I did not know that. No, I thought we were just talking about the movie before Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Well, I'm going to jump back and forth here because Pee-wee as himself was the recent documentary about Pee-wee Herman and Paul Reubens, and we're going to be a little all over the map here because we didn't do a notebook LM for this, but I guess the first thing that struck me not the first thing, but like later in the movie, it seemed like he had kind of a combative relationship with the filmmaker.
Yeah, that was a really interesting situation. I didn't quite understand.
I kind of wonder if it was because for anyone who knows Pee-wee Herman, he was embroiled in a couple of scandals later in his career. Or like as he was coming off the crest of his career, he was caught in the bust of a adult movie theater. He was in an adult movie theater, exposing himself in there, and then later he was hanging out with. I can't remember the guy's name from Ferris Bueller, the guy who played the...
Jeffrey somebody.
Played the principal. And he was... I can't remember the particulars of his case, but he was busted for being a pedophile. Or he was in possession of child porn or something. And he knew Paul Reubens. And so...
The tie that they knew each other.
Like 10 years after Paul got busted in that theater... they raided his house looking for child porn, and they didn't find anything, but they kept the thing going. They kept the investigation going for like a year. And what was sad was, like 10 years had gone by, and he'd kind of gotten off that. He was getting away from that stigma, and then they just the L.A. prosecutor, they had a new attorney, and they. He was out, I guess this guy he was political, he was kind of out for blood, and he just made Paul Reubens' life just kind of crap. But I almost feel a little bad talking about this because Pee-wee Herman had his contribution to art and like television and children's television was just awesome, especially growing up in the 80s. And I'm sorry, Pee Wee, wherever you are, didn't mean to open the show talking about, the hardest parts of your life, but I don't know, that stuff really makes me angry. Like, it's one thing when you catch, somebody doing something nefarious, but like, especially the prosecutor had to know. It's like, hey, we don't have any evidence here, but we opened up this case.
Well, and I think he was such a high-profile client. Well, not client. What's the word that I want? Thank you. A person of, yeah, so.
Personage.
In some of these situations, I don't think that it's fair because this person is so widely viewed by the public. I mean, everybody knows who he is. Everybody's watching him, his every move. And I'm not talking just about Pee Wee Herman himself or Paul Reubens. I'm just talking about, like, in general. So for them to, like... Well, also, I think that there are more, like, harder criminals that they should be worrying about. I don't understand what did he do was wrong. Like, I understand that it was inappropriate, but...
Well, these were two separate things. Like, when he got busted in the movie theater, yeah, it was inappropriate, but, like, he got... I don't know if...
It was inappropriate to be at that store anyway. Well, that's just my opinion, but...
Well, this is before the internet, and the guy has needs, and that's what those establishments were for.
Oh, that's a good point. Before, yeah. Different times.
Yeah, but the thing later with Jeffrey, what's-his-face, I think that guy had just been to his house once or twice. They were friends.
Oh, yeah, it
they
sounded
knew
like,
each
yep.
other. And Paul Reubens had a huge collection of kitsch art, and also, he was very private, but he was a gay man, and he had gay, like, vintage erotica, which...
A very large collection.
Yeah, like, just pictures of men in bathing suits from the 60s and 50s, and there was nothing,
Well, what really got me, since you brought that up, I can't hear myself.
You can't?
Not really, no. I sound normal.
Yeah, you sound okay to me.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as I guess I sound okay to you.
Is that better?
Yeah, that is.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
Bringing up... Oh, so from that collection of items, pictures that he had at his house, they went through, the investigators or whatever, went through all of that and found, didn't they say in the documentary, one quote, questionable picture.
Yeah.
And I thought, really? You went through...
And he had hundreds of thousands of pictures and magazines and and stills.
A whole bunch. You went through every single one, and in the end, you found one picture that was...
It was a picture of a guy laying down in the grass, and he looked too young, but he was of age.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, they did, yeah.
And they're like, you're gonna plead. Like, I don't know, I'm no lawyer, but I guess the attorney, they took a plea of, like, the no contest thing was for him in the theater, but they took a plea, like a lesser charge, like in owning obscene material or something, but dropped the pedophilia thing, or the owning pedophile or
material or something, yeah.
Child porn images. He didn't have any of that stuff, but you would think the attorney would be like, no, he doesn't own anything.
They should have just dropped it. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, like the kid in the picture, or the guy in the picture, excuse me, was of age.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
They're like, we got to bust you on something. I mean, you would think the attorney would be like, no, you're not.
I don't know. It's a bad situation, and then
they
he has
just
to
use
be
him as a pariah.
Yeah, and then and then he has to be on the sex offender list, and he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I don't.
It just sucked.
It doesn't make any sense.
I remember going to see Pee-wee's Big Adventure. My dad and my stepmom had just gotten married, and we went in the summer, or no, it was in the fall. And I think that was our first exposure to Pee-wee. Like, we just saw the advertisement for it, and we're like, this guy's nuts.
Who did you go with?
It was me, Tara, William, my
Oh,
stepbrother
your
and
family
sister,
went.
and my family, yeah.
Okay.
And it was just, we thought it was hysterical. We loved it. And I think my folks got a kick out of it too. But yeah, he was just in the media. He was like a personality that would just show up in the media, and like, he just made you feel good. He appreciated art, and he tapped into like childlike banter. That's how he would talk to people, and he always wore the same suit. But he put forward, even though he was kind of childish, he just put forward these, like, the best qualities of people. You know, he was a living kid show.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like in that position, somebody wants to like, an attorney in power wants to bust you for something.
Right. Yeah.
You got to admit that attorney had to have been like, oh, this guy's the perfect target for me.
Yeah, and this will be good for my career.
So, and, you know, don't get me wrong, I would be the first to, you know, I don't want to say slander, but like, there was that guy in Uncle Jimmy? He was that British children's television show, and he was a total grooming fiend. He was really rich. I think his name was Jimmy something. But he had he'd made a ton of money from this kid show, and he contributed to a bunch of children's hospitals, and the whole while he had raped and assaulted like countless kids, especially the one, like, he started this children's hospital and children's charity just to cultivate kids, just a dirt. And we're not talking about Paul Reubens. We're talking about this. You can look him up. He was a British television personality who was busted for, no, he wasn't even busted for it. They found out he was a child molester after he died. And,
oh, wow, after he died.
yeah, and like, it was crazy because you look back at the old footage, you're like, this guy was clearly a predator. Uncle Jimmy, that was him. I think that was him. Wait, scroll down. No, that was not him. That was not him, sorry. No, just search British television personality, child molester. I can't believe I'm having you search that on your
I know, I was
laptop.
thinking that as I'm typing, and I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, don't type it if you don't want to, but he was, it was Jimmy somebody. In any event, Pee Wee Herman was not that guy. Yeah, you could say child abuse.
There we go.
Jimmy Seville, that's him. Jimmy Seville. What a dirtbag. I mean, like, Pee Wee Herman was, like, Pee Wee Herman was the light, and Jimmy Seville was just a absolute piece of shit. Yeah, but like, this is him when he was near death, but he was this outrageous TV guy, and I think I would bet that this LA prosecutor, he had his eyes set on Pee Wee Herman to make an example of him before he died.
Which is so sad. He did so many great so many great and wonderful things. I really like his personality. Like,
Pee-wee?
yeah. Like, very happy and funny and, like, upbeat all the time.
And
Which
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I did wonder about his personal life because he was so involved with his art, like, what he did.
His
I mean, I
persona,
didn't
his
see
alter ego,
how he
and-
could do anything else. And by anything else, I mean have a life.
Yeah, I mean, like, he worked so hard on those movies and those, and that TV show, and I love that, you know, after he got out of Florida, like his dad was, I've seen this, I read this before, his dad was a World War II pilot,
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
and kind of a swashbuckling guy. What, can you not hear yourself again?
I can hear myself, but I feel like my mic, maybe I have to be really close.
No, I turned up your volume.
But you said you can hear me fine, so if you can hear me fine, then I guess it's okay.
Just remember here, these are yours, over here.
Okay.
I mean, when he went to, I don't think he went to Pasadena, whatever his art school was that he went to. He was constantly trying to find his voice. It's sort of a very regular story in that, you know, when you're an adolescent, when you're a young adult, you're trying to figure out what your thing is. Mm-hmm. And he had this appreciation for art and kitsch and personalities and behavior and reactions. And when he was part of the Groundlings, you know, he tried on all these different hats of personalities. And one day, Pee-wee just kind of appeared.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I forgot what I was going to say.
Too hot in here for you?
No, it's not.
I think the other thing I was going to mention was just about, what was our director's name for this movie?
It was directed by Matt Wolf.
Yeah, it seemed, especially on the second half, this was a two-part movie. It seemed on the second half like it's almost like when you got him talking about, I'm extrapolating a bit here, this is just what I pulled from it, because the second half of it dealt with these two scandals in Paul Reubens' life. I almost wonder if it churned up a lot of feelings of resentment and pain and trust for him. So while he was talking to the director, he, like, especially in the second part, it became obvious that Paul just didn't trust giving his story over to somebody else. There was a back and forth about Paul thought he should have been in more control of his own documentary. You know?
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
I think I liked how, this is definitely not me, but he didn't care what anybody said or thought of anything that he did. He just did what he wanted to do in, like, all aspects. I mean, wouldn't you say that before his show there really hadn't been anything like it before? I mean, there were things that were similar because he talked about, like,
Yeah,
when
there was
he grew
Captain
up.
Kangaroo and there was the Muppets and stuff like that, but he was almost like a kitsch embodiment. If you just look at, like, the things from Pee-wee's Playhouse, he animated or he puppeteered, or he had these things puppeteered, like the old flower sill. Mm-hmm. He had his window puppeteered. He had that, what was Eddie, the puppet, the kind of the tough,
that greaser, like, little kid or whatever.
Yeah, that greaser kid who smoked with the crop top hair, or the brush cut haircut. Mm-hmm. That's all all of those images you would find in art or magazines of the 50s and 60s. Mm. Or the screen, or the what was his
computer?
Yeah, his genie.
Oh, the genie, yeah.
Yeah, the genie and the typewriters, all that, or the typewriter robot. All of that stuff was very much like a mechanized. It was done in the vein of things from the past.
I really liked it. I thought it was really good. Gave me a new appreciation for Pee Wee Herman. Although, also, that happened when we watched Pee Wee's Big Adventure. So I was just like, you probably were like, just watch it, just like, you know.
Yeah, because
I gotta give it time. You know how I am. Like,
This is like when we saw Amelie, although, well, here's why. Because when we saw Amelie, I loved Amelie, the French movie.
Most people do.
But I don't have a problem with things being out of place or it wasn't even macabre, like unusual. Like anything, especially, there's so much of the art world that is removed from normality. Like an artist pulls normality or everyday life. They make it in a new form that makes it the representation of it stark. Makes you have to think about the world that you live in, and Amelie definitely does that, especially with how people approach love, and finding love, and connecting with one another. And not that you didn't see that or didn't get it, but just the visual presentation of it was a little tough for you.
Yep.
Which I'll give you credit here, because 2 weeks ago you were like, hey, it's coming back. Maybe we should see it again. And I was like, what?
You didn't like it the first time.
I'm like, who are you?
Yep,
but
you're right.
But Pee Wee was, he makes people laugh, and
A lot.
He just does it consistently.
Very funny.
Yeah, it's so funny to see this herringbone besuited man-child run around and. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I interrupted.
No, Pee Wee's Big Adventure was just about a guy who loved his bike, and then the Pee Wee himself.
He said, yeah.
How this movie came to be is they were writing one movie,
based on,
and they were on the Warner Brothers lot, and Paul Reubens sees all these bikes zipping around, and then he just
all
has
these
this
super
epiphany.
famous people. By the way, they
Yeah.
showed photos in the series that we watched, and I thought that was so cool. And then he said, like, how does one get a bike around here on the studio lot? And then he say the next day.
Yeah, he went into his writing partners and was just like, I think we're writing the wrong movie.
Well, also, so he asked about how does one get a bike here, and then the next day he went to work, and there outside was a brand new shiny Schwinn bicycle,
Schwinn Racer.
red,
Yeah.
and it said, I think it said property of
Pee Wee
Herman,
Uh-huh.
and maybe there was a spot to park it in. I don't know, and so then that's when go ahead he went and said we're writing the wrong movie.
Yeah. And Pee Wee's Big Adventure was just such a massive. I didn't even realize when we saw this movie all the things he had done prior to this, like the show. Because I mean, we weren't of age and we lived in northern Michigan. This was happening in Hollywood. Like he had the show at the Groundlings and then moved to the what did he say, the Fox Theater, or the Alamo or the. No, I was talking about these theaters last night. It was another. It might have been the Fox. It moved to a bigger theater.
The Roxy, but
the
I
Roxy.
thought that was it?
Yeah.
That's where the Groundlings went? I thought it was
Well, it started at the Groundlings and then it outgrew their space.
Oh.
And then it went to the Roxy.
There's a lot of details.
Yeah, it went to the Roxy. Yeah, and then it became a TV show. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I think we saw little things about Pee Wee either in magazines or on TV, but then when there was a movie, when you're in 4th and 5th grade, that's the apex of all things media in the 80s. And all 5 of us went, but the kids especially, we just loved it. It was like a man-child who talked like us. And his primary concern was somebody stole his bike and he had to get it back. And they just made I think part of the movie that was so interesting that you figure out about him as a person later is he wrapped all of these personalities into the adventure. And some of these people were made-up characters. A lot of the times they were celebrities. And what you find out from this movie is how many different celebrities loved Paul Reubens, but he was so intensely private. He had I didn't even know this, he had a relationship with Debbie Mazur. And it's
For a few years.
yeah, and it wasn't even addressed, and actually shouldn't have been as to whether or not it was romantic. It was just they were very close. His relationship with his assistant lasted for 40 years.
Oh, yeah.
Who else? He was friends with Cher. He was friends with, he did a spot with, it wasn't Johnny Carson, but.
David Letterman?
No, with Letterman, where he was next to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who else was in his show? Lawrence Fishburne. Just throughout
Jimmy
this,
Smits.
Jimmy Smits. There was just so many movies.
Natasha Lyonne was on the
Natasha
show.
Lyonne, yeah. Ooh, Debbie.
I just want to see.
God, Debbie Mazur, you look so good. You were trying to figure out what she was, what her background. She used to be Madonna's hairdresser.
I think that's so cool.
Latvia and Jewish.
She was born in Latvia.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to say my favorite character of hers was Shauna from Entourage.
She was very good.
Just consistently pissed off publicist who just didn't take shit from anybody. I can understand how her and Pee-wee were, or her and Paul were an item.
Yeah.
But just to see his progression out of Pee-wee Herman, I didn't realize this either, that he had such a identity crisis with, like, he had made this character and he fought so hard for it and he worked so hard for it to become a thing, that after it became a thing, like, he didn't have an identity. He was, like, totally anonymous. And even when he got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, it wasn't in his name. It was in his character's name.
Well, remember there was a point in the series that we watched when he came out, I think on Jay Leno's show. I don't mean come out, or whatever.
He
He came out as Paul Reubens.
Yeah.
And Jay Leno said this is his first time doing an interview as Paul Reubens. And people didn't know
How to respond.
him because everybody knew him as Pee Wee Herman. He was always Pee Wee Herman. Very interesting.
I think especially as this documentary wore on, as I had said a few minutes ago, I do kind of want, I mean, he's passed now, so we can't really ask him, but I wondered if this had stirred up feelings about having control of your life taken away from you, like when these scandals he was embroiled with. I'm wondering if that was sort of a jumping off point for him to have this kind of back and forth with his director, not wanting to concede full control, and he backed out of the last interview. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wondered about it, how though?
Well, I just wondered if, like, talking about having gone through those scandals.
Oh, it was like bringing it all back up and
Maybe.
bringing out feelings that he hadn't
Yeah.
really brought to the surface before.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he brought them to the surface before, but now he's talking about them openly.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he seemed to get a little,
Like uncomfortable.
yeah, like, I don't want to say combative, but there was a lot of pushback with him and the director's questions towards the end of the second chunk. And I could understand, having seen both chunks of this movie, that maybe it was like, I'm not gonna give somebody else control over my story, not full
Right.
control.
Which good for him for saying, because I get it. I mean, you wouldn't want someone else to tell your story. You want to be working together with someone to help them tell your story.
It's
Shouldn't-
also tough because it's a documentary.
I know
and,
that's. I know. After I said it, I was like, "How to explain that?" Because I feel that way too. If a documentarian is making a movie about you, they're learning about you in the process. It's their work, but at the same time, it's also your life. So how do you?
editing gets in the way of that,
Mm.
and like, hey, that's not what I told you. You like it. I don't want to be misrepresented.
Right,
here.
exactly. Because then people are gonna watch it and think something else.
But I think, what's our director's name? For
Matt
this one?
Wolf.
Matt Wolf. I think he did a really good job. I mean,
I thought he did a great job. I really liked it.
it was in a positive light.
We took a break. We watched part one, and then the next day we watched part two. And after part one, I mean, if it hadn't been so late, we could
Yeah,
have watched part two right after that.
yeah. It's. I never want to put in these podcasts we do that something was good. Because that's just so like amorphous and it doesn't really say anything.
Yeah, I understand that. I feel that way too.
I enjoyed seeing this because Pee Wee was a part of my life, especially at a younger age, and even when like he was busted, I remember this feeling of like, this seems kind of unfair. This feels like people are out to get you. And you know what's sad about that is like, even today, anybody can say anything and screw your life up. And like, we used to have this thing in America like due process, but that's like to incarcerate somebody. That says nothing about the role of people's words in public opinion. Like, you can destroy somebody's life in the court of public opinion just by just saying the word pedophile. Like
Yeah,
what-
right.
what's-
If you put their name with that word,
Yeah, it's funny.
it's
because
over for them.
There's so many people who don't have the mental horsepower to like push the question forward. Like, how do you know this? What evidence do you have? Where do you see this? Like, how refutable it's just like people in the atmosphere hear that word and hear a name associated with him. Like, you know what, I heard
and
about those people.
and they completely write you off right away.
I had an experience like that in high school.
Yeah.
I talked to you about. It was like somebody just said something. Like, and there was there was just a story that was created, and it made my life very hard for years. And like, so I have a soft spot in my heart for Pee Wee Herman. I just think I think about the guy who actually spread rumors about me and other people I knew growing up, and I'm like, you know what? I can't even conceive of what would be going on in somebody's life to
Do that to somebody else.
Yeah, and I don't know, it just makes me mad, that it's funny is that the subject of the story gets all the attention and all the emotional weight dumped on them, but the person who manufactures the story, they're like, it's almost like I want to say this correctly, it's like, the idea of they're not culpable, there's no responsibility there. Like, the people hearing the story, they don't give any credit to the idea that the person who's telling you a defamatory story about somebody else, there has to be credibility. But that's so destructive when you say things about people that, and you know what? I don't know, because I think that there's actually people out there who hurt kids and do horrendous things, and like,
Yeah.
you have to put the light on them. But when a false claim is made, like there's no retribution or no.
Yeah.
You got to help me out here. What's the word I want? This is driving me nuts. Whenever I want to make a point, I lose my ability to stitch words together. There's no. There's no responsibility held back to the person who put that story out there.
Yeah.
It's almost like they get off scot-free.
Well,
It's
yeah, I
almost
was just
like
going to
they're-
say it's almost like there's no apology. There's
there's
sorry
nothing.
that I accused you of this thing and, it didn't end up being true, or I ruined your life because of this one anecdote that I told.
And you know what? It's almost like you want there to be like I personally want there to be a public apology fund that
Yeah.
like there's a chunk of money assigned for situations like that you can put out a full page ad talking shit about the person who defamed you,
Uh-huh.
or the lawyer who went after you.
Yeah.
Like to have TV or social media spots to say, hey, you, Mr. Attorney, who brought these charges forward, and they're completely erroneous, they were proved false, and
Yep.
you spread all this shit about me. Like, do you have the balls to actually say you're sorry and like go on
And
TV?
they don't.
Yeah, and they don't. They just forget it and they move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. That's what's so deplorable about defaming somebody, is that when a mistake is made, it's just ignored, kind of, and it's up to the person who was hurt to rebuild their own.
Yeah, exactly. It's totally unfair. Because like you just said, the person who's accusing someone of something, they're just going to move on to the next whatever it is.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it's completely and totally ruined this person's life. And most likely, this person has worked really, really hard to get to where they are. And they deserve all the success that they're getting. And
Hey,
then
built his
something
own-
like this happens, and it's just... It's like that part of you never existed. Now
Yeah.
you're just looked at upon as this awful person.
Yeah,
It's not fair.
I mean, I don't recall the name of the attorney or the prosecutor who was just newly elected who went after him, but if I was Paul Reubens, I'd be like, you know what, you owe me more than you can repay me.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Like, just people like that make me sick. And like, I know that there's part of what they do is they're going out there, they're doing their job, but
Yeah.
there's people who talk shit about other people, and they make unsubstantiated claims, and they hurt people, they cost people jobs, they cost people friends, and nothing is done about it. And I think it's such an injustice because there's no movement around it. There's no like media thing around it. It's just people can say it's a function of the human condition. You can say something. You know what's really hard for kids is in school. Is when somebody says something about you and it makes you a pariah.
Yeah,
And for you to like defend yourself, like, hey, that's not right. You can't. That didn't happen.
yeah,
And kids love a story. Like, I think a lot of adults are just big children.
yeah. I think
Like,
so.
they hear a story and they're like, oh, this guy's clearly has problems and we have to ostracize him now. I think at least personally, this speaks to not so much a need, but like an irritation I have with people as a whole in their inability to ask deeper questions. It's like people who respond to the news just make me sick. They really do. It's like, oh, you know what, so-and-so, you know what the president's doing, or this person. You can pick any number of news stories.
Yeah.
But like when there's no attention paid to the reasons or the reasons for somebody's actions or the background story of any particular action. Or like that Tucker Carlson guy, whenever I see him going after somebody. Any of anybody with a microphone in front of them who has any kind of notoriety, I don't think they're so much as they're not trying to get to the root of the human condition or to understand a problem or a person.
Yeah.
They're trying to get you. They're trying to get you in trouble. Or they have most viewers, I think, have no desire or interest to understand their subject. I think they just want attention through personality destruction.
That's sad. That's so sad. That's not the right reason to do it.
And what's funny is a lot of interviewers or journalists would defend their position and of course you got mortgages to pay, you got food to buy, you got children to feed, but what's going to get the most views is when you fuck up somebody's life.
Right.
It's you're not doing this to protect anyone.
No.
The police do that.
Yeah.
But you're doing it to put a spotlight on somebody and drag them through the mud. That's what most. I don't have a lot of respect for most people who do interviews of any other person who's going through something traumatic, because I think it's just I'm trying to think of the most vile word I can to describe it. I think it's completely self-serving, and I don't think there's anything benevolent about it. I think it masquerades. I think it's a big lie. I think it masquerades as trying to do public good. And a lot of these sort of had I not known about what happened with Paul Reubens,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have made it the least bit of difference in my life. I mean, if you know that, if it would have come out that he was a pedophile, that's up to the courts to decide. But then a lot of journalists just grab a hold of a story, and before anyone's gone to trial about anything,
and they said that in the there was a fan who said that
they didn't,
in the documentary.
There was a lot of fans who were out there and protesting.
They're like, how can you say anything? Nothing's been proven otherwise. Either way, I should say.
I wish I was a better speaker in this regard, because I'm kind of freewheeling it here and forming my thoughts as I'm talking about them. But that's a side of journalism that I just absolutely can't stand. And it's not just journalism; it's how people deal with one another. Because once you're ostracized from the group, from your peers, that's a whole nother kind of death. And thank God Pee-wee Paul had the tenacity to keep making great content, and his fans were smart enough to see through that. But I think it's a real injustice what that prosecutor did to him.
I would agree.
Anything else you learned that you want to? It was kind of a shame his Big Top Pee-wee, that movie didn't do as well, but yeah, Cassandra Peterson, Tim Burton, Natasha Lyonne, Fishburne, David Arquette. Who? I don't know who that is. Oh, she was I mentioned she was the wife of the programmer in Terminator 2.
Wasn't she on Law and Order?
Yeah. Apatha
Murkerson?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't actually know her name. But
I've seen her face before,
yeah, a lot. No, I was just thinking about when I was really, really little, I'm pretty sure I knew of Pee Wee Herman, but I didn't have a lot of exposure because that's just not something we were watching other things.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have a very tiny, small, like, recollection or memory of Pee Wee Herman. Again, I knew of him, but that's all. And I certainly was not aware of, like, him on a bigger scale with, like, movies and things like that. But, I mean, I really liked this documentary. I thought it was very well done, and looking at,
No, I'm just
okay.
looking at some of the people who were in it.
It was very interesting. I'd almost watch it again. And I say almost because I'm sure that I won't, but I would watch it again.
That's saying a lot for a documentary.
I like documentaries.
Personally,
Not a
it's
big
hard
fan.
for me to watch them because I think they.
It depends on the subject. I mean, some documentaries I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'll watch that. And others I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But I am a fan.
I think I watched this just because I like Pee Wee Herman. I'd have
Yeah.
to. Well, I guess that makes sense. You watch documentaries about subject matters you're interested in.
Yes, exactly. But they make them about everything. It's kind of a nice change of pace from like a movie. Because it's just different. But there are some things that I just do not want to see.
All right, you want my recipe?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
Because I know everyone's been. Well, actually,
It's been
nobody. That is my shorts sticking to these chairs in the
It's
library.
super hot today. It's like,
All right, so I'm going to read through. This is a honey-based recipe I found. I've been stalling on giving you guys a new one, but finally, if you've stuck with me, I got a new one for you. This is honey barbecue cheesy beef tacos, which sounded odd to me, but the Instagram reel looks pretty good. So, ingredients: tablespoon of olive oil, 1 onion, 400 grams, 5% minced beef, so ground beef, tablespoon barbecue seasoning, salt and pepper, tablespoon of tomato puree, tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, half a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, 1 tablespoon of honey. I would suggest the hot pepper one because that would fit with this perfectly, just because it's tacos and yeah, I like them spicy. 80 gram, what is passata?
I don't know.
I don't know either. And then 100 grams grated cheese. So I think you can, flux a little bit on the amounts of cheese and passata. Passata. So for the topping, 1 tablespoon barbecue sauce, chopped parsley, and chopped onions. Here's the method. You're going to heat the oil in the pan and add the onion, followed by the balsamic vinegar until softened. Add the beef until cooked through. Add the barbecue seasoning, salt and pepper, Worcestershire, honey, tomato puree, and passata. You're going to mix together and simmer for a couple of minutes and then pour the mixture into a bowl. Dip each wrap in to cover the outside of the wrap. Then pop the wrap into your pan you were just using, saucy side down. Add 1/4 of the beef mixture and some of the cheese and fold over. So you're making almost like it's like a panini taco, but you're only using a skillet. You're going to cook for a few minutes over a medium to high heat until golden, and then flip. Let it cool for a few minutes before digging in. It gives you calories around 260, 22 grams carb, 10 grams fat, protein 20 gram, which honestly, I don't care. I would eat this. Yeah, I think the hot honey would give it a nice little zing at the end, but I'd probably use a little bit more than they suggest, just so you can actually taste it. I'd use like 2 or 3. That's just me. Anything else? What is passata?
It is a thick paste made from strained tomatoes, used in Italian cooking.
Almost like paste. I wonder if it's like tomato paste. Anyway, with passata, tomato paste,
More than
whatever.
ketchup.
What?
More than ketchup.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying. Sounds like
Yeah,
that.
don't use ketchup, gross.
Don't take a shortcut.
Yeah, come on, people, put the effort in.
Mhm.
All right, we got anything else?
I think that's it.
All right, we're gonna find another movie for you. Talk to you soon.